Hey y'all, Parker here from South Anna Farm. Take a look at our garden. I mean, this thing has fallen into absolute disrepair, and to be honest, I'm a little embarrassed to be showing this to you, but it's kind of fallen on the back burner. It hasn't really been a priority for us here on the farm. And as you can see, a lot of the wood and stuff has started to rot away. And we use pressure treated wood that we just had laying around the place. And I know there's some controversy out there as whether or not the pressure treated wood leaches into the soil or not. We actually decided to spend a little bit of money this year, and we went with a metal raised garden bed. And I'll talk to you guys about what we went with and why we went with that particular brand. But we got to get all of this stuff out of here. We got to clean this up and get those new metal beds put together. And the other thing is too, we also have vegetable plants already in the greenhouse that we started from seeds a while ago, so we got to get those out of there, otherwise they're not going to make it much longer. So come follow along with us as we do a much needed makeover on our garden here on the farm. And that right there is where we're going to metal raised garden beds. Look at all that rot. All right, so for our raised garden beds, we went with Vego Garden. And the reason we went with this company over some of the other ones was because out of all the reviews out there, Vego Garden has some of the best. There's also a couple different gardening YouTube channels out there of people doing different reviews on different types of metal garden beds. And those guys do this a lot more than I do. So I will certainly take their word over anybody else's. But even they recommend Vego Garden as one of their top picks. Some of the other things too is Vego Garden claims that they use recycled metals, and they also state that they have the only USDA approved paint coating on their garden beds. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. So earlier in my video, I was talking about the pressure treated wood and those chemicals potentially leaching into the soil. The same thing can be said about the metal and those metals potentially leaching into the soil as well. So the paint that Vego Garden uses on their metal garden beds helps keep it from rusting, but it also keeps those metals from potentially leaching into the soil. So those were all really good things to kind of encompass in to make our final decision on who we were going to go with. So that's why we went with them. This particular model, this is the 17-inch tall 9-in-1. The 9-in-1 allows us to put this into a couple different configurations. The one we're going to use here on the farm is a 3.5 foot by 6.5 foot. So that's a pretty good sized garden bed, and the fact that they were able to fit that thing into this little box here is really surprising. So I was actually pleasantly surprised on the packaging here. This box really isn't that heavy. And I was expecting to have a bunch of boxes, of massive boxes on our front porch. So this is just one bed. We have 4 total boxes that we have to put together. And I haven't seen what it looks like inside of here yet, so I don't know how it's packaged, but I will certainly let you know my, my personal opinion of it as we go through the video. But Vego Garden claims that it takes 40 minutes to put one of these things together. Again, I have 4, so challenge accepted. And let's see how this goes. But we'll get this thing put together, and then I'll give you my final review or my final take on this garden bed. All right, so let's go ahead and cut into this thing. All right, so surprisingly, it's pretty well organized and packaged there. Looks like this is all the hardware that we're going to need for the garden, and it says that it's biodegradable bag, so that's kind of cool. Obviously, the instructions, and then these are the corner panels, and it looks like there's like a plastic coating on here, or a wrap. I'm assuming that's probably to protect the paint that I was talking about. If this thing gets scratched or something while it's being shipped, it goes down to the bare metal, then obviously that portion could rust, or it could leach, those metals could leach out into the soil there, like we were talking about. So I don't know how much of a pain that's going to be to have to take all of those off, but I understand, I guess, why they put it on there. And then obviously here are the flat panels, and it looks like it also has that plastic wrap going around it. And then the only other thing in here is this crossbar, and I'll talk about the reason we use that. I don't even know if we're actually going to end up using that, but we'll see. So let's get these other 4 boxes, or other 3 boxes opened up, and then we'll start putting this thing together. So this is the bag that all of the hardware comes in, and it looks like that's the edging that goes around the top. And then here are the bolts, and they're all basically in one big plastic bag. In here, there's 2 different types of nuts. So there's the ones that are rounded off, and then there's the ones that aren't. So these ones that are rounded off are supposed to go on the top 2 holes all the way around. And I think the idea behind that is, if you're reaching your hand down into the top of the garden, it's not going to cut your hand, whereas this would have the bolt sticking out the end of it. This is going to protect it. And the idea is these can go all the way down, because you're probably going to have your soil somewhere around here. So that's a kind of a cool little design there. The other thing too is with these bolts, I've noticed on the, I don't know if you would call it the last generation or the other generation, but they used to have washers with these. So they're just regular bolts like this, and then there would be a washer that had to go with it. So what they did is they ended up putting this kind of this like shroud around the end of the bolt here. That way it's one less piece of hardware you got to keep up with. So that was really smart on Vego's part to include that. And then in this bag you have this this tool, which is basically goes on the end of here while you screw it in. Now the bolts are just a Phillips head, and so they don't have a screwdriver that comes with them. And my recommendation would be, you could use a screwdriver, but it would be a lot quicker if you had like an impact driver or a drill or something like that with a Phillips head on the end of it. So that's what we're going to use for this. We're going to end up using the impact driver to make it go a little bit faster, but to start it off, we'll just do hand tight, and then we'll finish it off with the impact driver. Now, one thing that I did find online that wasn't in the directions in the box was that these corner panels are actually designed to go on the outside of these flat panels and not the inside. So if you're putting one of these together, make sure you're keeping in mind to keep these corner panels here on the exterior. And from what I understand, that has to do with the construction and the way that these things were designed. All right, so we're all done. That one took us about a little over 45 minutes. So this is our first one. We got 3 more to do. Hopefully that 4th one will go by very quickly now that we got a hang of it. But let's go get the other 3 put together and then we'll be done with this. Don't ask. Now, in the future, this entire area is going to be fenced off, and we'll obviously include the greenhouse in that fenced-in area. But for right now, because we don't know exactly where the fence is, I'm going to go ahead and stake and string off the area, and that way I can pull a measurement on each corner to make sure that these beds are precisely placed. Because if I fill them up with dirt and then come in later and decide that I need to move these things, well, that's going to be almost near impossible. I'll have to remove that compost or that soil just to get it moved again. So we're going to go ahead and do that now and save us some time on the back end. The other thing that we're going to do is put down a nice weed barrier, and that way we don't have to worry about any weeds or the grass that's here growing up into the soil bed. Well, guys, that wraps up this video. That last shot there was just from a couple days ago, and we got it wrapped up at the end of the day just before it got dark. Unfortunately, when it starts getting dark out here, it gets dark quick. So everything's done now, ready to put those vegetable plants into the garden bed, and we're super excited about that because we really wanted to start our growing season a little bit sooner, but I think we caught it just in the nick of time, and we'll be okay there. Overall, we're pretty happy with these garden beds. They seem like they're sturdy. They seem like they're gonna hold up for a long time. I mean, we just put all that soil in there and we didn't even notice any bowing in the boxes. So that's a pretty good sign as far as their longevity and how much life we're gonna get out of them. The one thing that we didn't like is as we were putting these things together, an occasional panel would scratch on the inside or something like that. And there was a couple of places where the paint actually came off. If we could make one recommendation to Vego, it would be maybe put like a little vial of paint, almost kind of like a fingernail polish bottle, where if that does happen, if that's a common thing, people have the ability to touch that paint up. I think they have a really good thing going here as far as their selling point of having that USDA approved paint and keeping those metals from leaching out. And in order to keep that, if it's going to scratch while they're putting them together, or if somebody's putting a trowel or something down in the garden bed, it would be nice to just have some touch-up paint that people could put on there and apply it. But that's the only thing that I can really figure out about this if I had a recommendation or an improvement to these. So really happy with them. We're gonna get the growing season started. We'll come back at the end of the growing season, probably around fall, And we'll just kind of talk about like what we think at the end after a few months of using these things and how well they're holding up. So if you don't mind, hit that like button and also consider hitting that subscribe button. That'll help the channel grow, and it'll also let you guys know when these new videos come out. So until then, y'all stay safe, and we'll see you later.